This morning we're going to pop over to Second Mouse Cheese and we're going to have a chat with SJ about what she's doing in the Orange footprint. Come with us. G'day, it's Matt here from Couple of Sitters and Chrissy's with me as well. We're here with SJ from Second Mouse Cheese Company.
Hey Matt, hey Chrissy, how you going?
Great, yourself?
Really good.
Excellent. So we bumped into you at the farmers market in Bathurst, and that for us we found was a really interesting experience. A lot of markets that we've encountered in the past tend to be a bit of a mishmash of things, but we really love the fact that this was focused on producers and local products as well. It wasn't like, phone covers and stuff like that available there. It was really pure in that sense. That was quite refreshing. Can you talk to us more about your experience when it comes to participating in the markets and what you do in that sort of space?
Absolutely. We pretty much only attend markets now that are produce focused. We find that for cheese and for other sort of produce that is, perishable, it's really not good if you've got candles and wood leatherworking and that kind of stuff. So there's a real place for those sorts of things in the market, but we're really focused on food. People want to come to Bathurst Market or Orange Market and they want to get the things that they're going to take home and make into meals and feed their families, and that's 100% our niche. And Bathurst Market is fantastic for that, so is the Orange Farmers Market. There's actually quite a strong community of farmers markets in this region because we're a beautiful food bowl. So why not give the producers a great space to showcase their products and to sell them.
And you said that you do a bit of marketing related work in relation to the ventures with other businesses, helping expose them?
Look, we try and just be good community members. Cheese is a great product in that regard because you can pair it with so many different things. So, there's people who are producing wonderful fruit in the area. Orange is a very renowned fruit district. And from fruit, you've got jams and chutneys and preserves. And then, of course, we're also a wine district. So nothing goes with cheese like wine does, or
true.
Beer or cider or spirits. Cheese is one of those sort of like little pleasures that you can just pair with anything, and it just sort of makes everything better and more happy.
Definitely, and we found that with the Second Mouse cheese. I think we picked up the Swiss cheese that you do. And that was lovely, and we've still got a tiny bit left.
I admire your restraint.
But we had, was it the Roobie Blue? We finished off the last of that last night with some of is it the salami man who's doing the local, the small goods. It was, I think, the pork and truffle salami you had with the Roobie Blue and a Prosecco.
Fabulous.
It was absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for recommending the Roobie Blue to us.
My absolute pleasure. I think it's a winner too. I'm very proud of our blue, and it's one of those things that there's a lot of people who are very resistant to blue cheese. They don't think that it's going to be for them. I think a lot of people's exposure to blue cheese is often, Christmas Day, it's 40 degrees heat. There's a cheese plate that's been sitting out for hours. They've had a few drinks. They're going to try a piece of, Stilton or whatever that was got to, keep grandpa happy. And it is an awful experience for them. And they go, I don't like blue cheese. And it's like, there's a whole world of blue cheese out there. It's not just one note. So the blue cheese that we make I'm looking for that balance between something that's going to satisfy the blue lover but not be overwhelming. I guess that's the joy of being the cheesemaker, is you get to make the styles of cheese that you want to eat. So that's the style of blue I want to eat.
Could you share some of the insights into artisan cheese making and what distinguishes Second Mouse from other cheeses in the area?
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of other cheeses in the area. Cheesemaking is a lot of infrastructure. It's a lot of regulatory work. Supply of raw materials is, becoming more and more difficult as we see the dairy industry more challenged and more taken over by large or like dairies that are completely contracted to large companies. So straight up there isn't that much artisan cheese being made. The closest competitors I have there's one in Mudgee and there is a small goat farm in the Blue Mountains. And there's one or two others scattered, but there's nobody else in this region. The majority of cheese that we see on the shelves in the supermarkets is going to be industrially made, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a mechanized process is always going to be scalable and, you know, be something that, you know, can be much more commercial. Doing everything by hand, it's more costly and it's more labor intensive. So there's not a lot of it happening out there. So I think that that's one of the things. It's like a benefit and a drawback. Because there's not a lot of it out there, people really seek that product out because it is special and it is unique, and finding something that really is handmade like that is really special.
Yeah.
And that's a great position to be in, because people get excited as soon as they see you. They want to come and be a part of it, and they want to try it, and they want to love it. So it's great to give them a product that they love when they already want to love it.
Definitely. So easy to meet people over a cheese board. And with what you had going on there at the market, it was one thing that we walked past. I've got to save the cheese till last. It's the best bit.
I love to hear that.
Yeah, it was really nice. Are there any traditional practices in cheesemaking that you find that you hold dear to?
Cheesemaking is a very simple art, and it has been the same production method basically since cheese was discovered, like give or take 10,000 years ago. You've got milk and it starts to ferment, and you set it with a enzyme of rennet, and that creates a curd, and then you take the curd and you extract the whey, and you keep those milk solids, and you're preserving them. So with your fermentation process and with your salting process, and you are aging them. And it's a way that you can capture nutrients when you have a lot of them and preserve them for future use. So that's a practice that's as old as, you know, human agriculture. And while there's a lot more technical things, you know, we have lab grown cultures, and we have, you know, refrigeration that allows us to sort of control our environment completely. The principles haven't changed. And we've only really known about bacterial cultures and what they are and what they do for the last couple of hundred years. But cheesemaking's been going on, yes, since, like I said, roughly 10,000 years. We're not entirely sure, but it's one of those things that every culture that has had dairy animals has done.
Is there a particular type of cheese that you find you lean towards more than another? I've got to choose between my two children.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any children, but I'm told that's very naughty. You're supposed to love them all equally. No, I go from cheese to cheese. I love like goat's cheese, but I'm not able to make any just because there's no people producing goat's milk in this area. All of the goats that are farmed here are either farmed for textiles or they're farmed for meat. It's not really... there's not enough money in it, I suppose. But if anybody out there is producing goat's milk or sheep's milk, give me a call.
In the Orange area only, or?
If you've got it and you want to sell it and you think we can transport it, like, let's have a chat.
Let's talk. Perfect. Well, you know, reach out to SJ. The link will be in the comments below. Can you share more about the local produce that you do use and how these impact on your cheesemaking processes and what the locals have come to love about what you do?
The locals love the quality that we're bringing to the table. We are producing cheese on what I would humbly say is a world-class level. We're very proud of our quality. It's not just a local product that's a token thing. It will stand up to any kind of competitors. I'm really proud of that. We do use a few local products for some seasonal things that we do. For example, you know, when winter hits and truffle season comes, we'll do some short releases of soft cheese layered with fresh truffle. But we are more interested in focusing on producing our product on a consistent basis and being able to, like we talked about before, work with other producers and their varying products that they have and putting the two together. It's sort of greater than the sum of its parts.
With the focus that the smaller batch production requires, and Second Mouse being a smaller batch production related operation, what can you tell us about that in relation to quality over quantity and how that sits with you from a values proposition?
It's a really challenging one because on one hand, quality over quantity is, you know, what I think everybody who loves their craft wants to do. You want to focus on creating the best possible thing. But when I became the owner of Second Mouse Cheese, obviously my focus had to change because I'm no longer just a cheesemaker, I'm a business owner. And at the end of the day, the most important part of sustainability that we often forget is the ability to keep doing what you're doing. If it's not going to be a financially viable task, no amount of love is going to allow you to keep doing it. Yeah. So it's a balance as always, and we are at a stage now where the potential for growth is really strong, and the finding the balance of like how much we can produce in our current facility is definitely a thing. And as we look to be designing and building a new facility, that idea of like what growth will be sustainable and what growth will allow us to keep that level of quality really high. And it's a journey that we're on to discover that, and I don't have all the answers yet, but I think we're getting close to it. Yeah. And definitely we're never going to get to a point where we are doing, industrial volumes. There's no way that you could mechanize the process without dramatically changing the very nature of the product. So it will always be made by hand and made by people who are really passionate about it. Cheesemaking is quite an unusual profession. I think it takes a very particular personality type to love the detail and the repetition of what we do, to keep it consistent and therefore keep it high. Yeah. High quality.
As far as the hands-on approach, now you mentioned when we were at the farmers market, one of your cheeses that's actually quite delicate and it requires very minimal handling.
Yes.
That was the
feta.
The feta.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we're delicate with all of our processes, even things like just running the raw milk into the pasteurizer. We're doing that via a gravity feed. We're doing small batch pasteurization, and that is about like doing it more slowly and at a more delicate temperature while still maintaining the requirements to make sure that we are doing that process effectively. But I think for a lot of producers, and wines as well, will definitely say, that sort of like slow and gentle process is going to give you something that, yes, you can get the same outcome much quicker if you're using a lot of interventions, but there is something a little bit less tangible, but being very gentle really helps. The feta is an interesting one because feta is not a particularly delicate cheese, but it's highly acidic. So as soon as you start to handle the curd too much, the curd can go very tough and chewy. So what we're doing in our process is just being that whole process of allow the milk to culture, set the curd, cut the curd, take the curds out of the way, and put it in its hoops and salt it. We are as little intervention with that as possible, and that's what gives you that beautiful texture that you tried at the market. It's all of the things that people can be put off by feta, that rubberiness, that over-saltedness, that all comes from a much more heavy-handed or mechanized process. So that's one that really shows off, and it's great. It's a lovely, easy cheese that behaves very well. Every time you go to hoop it, the curd is just sort of so neat and untouched. It's very joyful. It's very sensory.
As the cheese industry continues to grow, and you've already spoken about how the large-scale commercial productions, they're a very different type of product, but as that evolution takes place in the market, how do you see Second Mouse fitting in with that and playing a part or doing something completely different? What sort of community engagement are you seeing there as far as future innovation and involvement goes?
I think we're going to see a renaissance of these sorts of products. There have been dwindling amounts of people who are producing in the way that we are, and I know that the COVID and some of the environmental sort of challenges around the last drought certainly impacted a lot of people's ability to do that. And we're in a sort of a bit of a slump at the moment, but cyclically these things will always come back, and there is an increased awareness in people in general and consumers that really was born from the COVID-19 pandemic about where their food is coming from and what they're wanting to get. for the money that they spend, and the wonderful products that we have here in Australia. We really are producing some of the highest quality food in the entire world, and I think we're a little bit spoilt sometimes, and we might forget that. But the perception of Australia as a food producing country internationally is extremely high, and we need to continue to sort of like bring that message into our own backyards and tell people and remind them, you know, how lucky we are. But there's more awareness now than ever around these sorts of things, and we are seeing a desire in a lot of people to step away from supermarkets and from, you know, places that could be doing a more ethical job in, you know, the way that they're treating everybody in their supply chain. Yeah. So we will see more people come back to this, hopefully.
Yeah, look, I have to agree with that. The beauty with what we're able to do with travelling around and being able to go to different towns and different cities, we definitely notice that when you go to places, even in like Brisbane as an example, Jan Powers Farmers Market, you'll get tens of thousands of people come through. And it's all because of the quality of the produce that's available. There's one particular gentleman there who's got a spring on his property, and he'll truck thousands of litres of water in, and people are queuing up just to get the spring water that he's got. So I see what you're saying at scale in other parts of the country where people are more connected with what they're after, and they're more conscious of where their food is coming from, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you're living in a regional area where you are connected to the landscape, you can't get away from what is happening around you. As we see the effects of climate change, people are becoming aware that like something is fundamentally wrong with the system, and that something has to change, and that they need to make different choices if they're going to see a better outcome for their families. You know, we're here today, this is the Easter long weekend, and it is the most beautiful warm day out in Orange, which is absolutely unheard of. Like, I think last Easter I was already burning the fire. It was just the effects of climate change are becoming more and more obvious every single day. And we're here, we can't ignore it. So the choices to make the options to make those better choices certainly are more accessible to us here in the regional areas as well, as opposed to being in a city where realistically everything has to travel. There are no farms producing, you know, enough vegetables to feed a community in Surrey Hills. And that's just the way it is. So we are very lucky in that respect.
Tell us more about your experiences growing up. What led you on the path to cheese making?
Grew up in mining. It was always our family's industry. And I went off to university to study engineering at 17 because that's sort of what I thought I was supposed to do. And I'd never known anybody in the food industry. I'd never been connected to food at all. And I hated it. It wasn't fun. But I had no idea like what else to do. You know, people say, oh, you know, you should find your passion, discover your passion. And it's like, well, that's great if you know what that is. But what if you sort of just go like, I like cocktails and weekends, you know? Like, that was really hard to find. And I had moved to Orange at this stage, and I'd always liked to cook, and I got given a one-day learn to make cheese at home class for my birthday. And I did that here in Orange at a function centre that had a commercial kitchen, but learned how to do it in a kitchen environment so that I could, you know, just do that at home. And I was like, this is some sort of black magic. And I fell completely in love, and I bought all of the equipment that day, and I bought all the books, and then I was finding blogs and vlogs, and I was watching YouTube videos, and I was experimenting at home, and I was making cheese, and I really got super into it. And then I've been doing that for a few months, and I was looking for like more things to learn, and I found the Artisan Cheesemakers Academy of Australia, based in Adelaide, and I was looking at their industry sort of standard Artisan Cheesemakers course. It was a Cert 3 in food production, but specialising in artisan cheese. And I was like, this is everything I want to learn. And I said to my employer at the time, I was like, I'm going to take a bunch of leave for the next year. I'll take some unpaid leave and some paid leave, and I'm going to travel up and down to Adelaide to do this course. And that was the first time I'd ever met anybody who was in the food industry, because I had some drafting background, so I didn't work hospitality when I was at uni. I sort of always had a bit of engineering work. And yeah, meeting people who were in food, it was the first time I'd ever met anybody who really loved their job. And that was a very shocking thing to realize, like, oh, that's not just like a meme of loving your job. Like, some people actually do. And that sort of passion that food people have for what they do really struck me. And I was loving learning everything. And then I met the founder of Second Mouse Cheese here in Orange at a party, and I had a few wines, and I was like, oh, I love your stuff, I'm doing this course. And he indicated that he would have some space in his team for somebody to join for a couple of days a week, and did I want a job? And I was like, yes. So went from working in engineering full-time to part-time, and was making cheese as well. And then I'd been working for him for maybe 2.5 years, and the opportunity to purchase the business came up, and I sort of wasn't sure of what the future of Second Mouse would be if another buyer didn't come along. So I just sort of jumped straight into it, and it was like, well, this is the custom-made opportunity that the universe has thrown my way. It's flung open the doors and rolled out a red carpet and just made this to be exactly what I want to do. So I just did it, and I didn't think about it at all. So no background in business. I think I called my mum, and I was like, I need to get an appointment with your lawyer and your accountant. And she was like, what's going on? And I'm like, I think I'm going to buy the cheese factory. She went, oh. And yeah, it all happened really quickly, but here we are.
Do you think that the person who gifted you that experience all those years ago had any idea that it could be the beginning of a journey?
No, I think they were just really hard up for a birthday present for me. It was my mum.
Oh. Thanks, Mum. You've changed the face of Orange.
Yeah.
Wow. So that, honestly, that really does speak to the thought that goes into gifts as another topic, I suppose. You know, some of them may have the potential to completely alter a person's course. Mm. It's a fascinating backstory.
Yeah, I think interesting you use the word fascinating, because I get asked this question a lot, and I do love to tell the story because people get a real kick out of that. Find your passion, do the career change, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And when I talk to young people about that, it's like, whatever you're doing, just do something you're fascinated with. It really doesn't matter what capacity you're doing it in. Just be fascinated with it, and that will put you onto an interesting path. Like you said, I could have never known where that one-day cheesemaking course was going to take me, but it took me here, and just because I was really fascinated with it, and you know, went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Go down the rabbit hole, kids.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, rabbit holes are good to explore. Is there anything else that you'd like to share in relation to what we've covered so far? Any gaps that you feel that we want to cross over? Or is there anything about Second Mouse that you'd like to make known?
The model of how we're going out and doing that direct-to-consumer sales, and how that drives people to our region to find our products. And that's really exciting and special. And I think that is one of the things that really makes us stand out, is we are so committed to the relationship that we have with our customers and with our, you know, with our colleagues and with our region. It's and with the relationship that I have with my cheeses, and the relationship that people build with the cheeses themselves. And it's an interesting thing, the way that we almost anthropomorphize those products. You know, we've got Henry, and that is you know, you said you had some of him left. He has a character and has a whole personality that is something that is because there is that relationship. If you picked up product up off the shelf, you might not have that same relationship with with our cheese that you do from having that interaction and from us getting to have a conversation and from the context of where we are. So I really love that about what we do, and that is difficult to scale, but I don't want to lose that because I think it's so special and so important. And that's such a big reason that people love our products, is because it means something to them. They have that relationship with it.
Yeah, for sure. I'd have to agree with that completely, because the one experience I had with the very first winery that I went to, and the very first wine tasting I ever did, was with a gentleman who was the original owner of Yarra Burn in the Yarra Valley.
Yeah.
The thing that really stood out to me that I've never seen any other winemakers do was it was a fresh glass for every tasting. So as you change from one wine to the next, you were given a fresh glass, because he didn't want to contaminate the wine from the previous tasting with the current tasting.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate what you're saying there about the product experience, the interaction, building that relationship, layering the whole thing together as a package for the customer who's going to go away with what you've got. I can say that in some cases there are people who will remember that moment for a very long time, and they'll develop a very strong connection with that, and being able to then appreciate what they've taken away from that experience later, again and again. As you said, David, you mentioned that the Roobie Blue would be okay to sit for another 3 to 6 months or something to that effect. Good luck. It didn't last.
It never does.
But we really enjoyed sitting there and reflecting on the time that we had at the market and what you'd shared with us, and what some of the other providers had shared with their produce, that we'd made a part of that experience for the evening, which I think really for us summed up being able to get closer to people and understand what's going on, where's the food coming from, how much love and attention has been poured into making it, because that at the end of the day is the experience that we're getting, that we're gifted by.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also what keeps these economies running round. You know, we are all wanting to create these things, and we need our customer support to make our businesses financially viable, so that we can keep employing local people, so we can keep purchasing from other local suppliers, or supplying to other local suppliers. It's a whole economic ecosystem that is fed by this passion as well. And we all need that. It would be a very different face of a community if we had only 3 or 4 large employers. And as a mining kid, I grew up in a town where that was pretty much what it was. Is this very homogenous employment set of opportunities, whereas we have so much diversity in a place like Orange, because we're all able to do different things and work together and have support from our wonderful customers.
Well, SJ, thank you so much for your time today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
It's been wonderful coming down here and being able to pop into the East Orange Producers Market. That was a great little experience too. Thanks for sharing that with us as well.
My absolute pleasure. Hi, my name's SJ. I'm the owner and the head cheesemaker of Second Mouse Cheese Co. And today we're going to try the double cream brie and the Roobie Blue. So the 2 cheeses here for tasting. We're going to start with the double cream brie. This is a really traditional style of brie. We're looking for complexity in all of our cheeses, and the brie's no exception. We've got a beautiful rich pate with the double cream, and some lovely flavours of butter and brassica, cabbage and cauliflower. These flavours will intensify over time and give you more complexity, allowing you to ripen it up to your preferred way of eating. The other cheese that we're tasting is Roobie Blue. This is a unique style of blue cheese to Second Mouse, named for the Kangarooby region, to give you an idea of where it's been created. Roobie Blue is a high-fat, medium-strength style of blue cheese. I talk about it being approachable rather than aggressive. You have butter and salt at the front of your palate, and the blue flavour will come from the back and work its way forward. It takes a little time to open up, but it gives you lots of length and complexity. It will satisfy the blue lover, but it will also convert the blue skeptic.